A Nascent Kaleidoscope. Chapter 191. Mortared POV. I followed the pink fop. Glancing back in the direction of the bastard, I grit my teeth, knowing I was going to miss one hell of a fight. As much as I really wanted to lay into that archer who had been taking shots at me all last night, my sights were focused on this other flying asshole. This pink-haired servant really started pissing me off, and I knew it would be much more satisfying to chop him up at the cost of a fight with those other guys. Besides, I knew the bastard could handle them. He was strong. Enough that I was surprised to see him really cut loose. His magecraft was pretty badass, and that armor of his was fucking awesome. I thought Father had made the wrong choice only a day ago, but if that's who he picked as his queen, then I guess it wasn't so bad. At least it's better than that bitch who cheated on him. I stomped on the ground, my mana burst exploding out as I tried to gain ground. Get back here, you bastard! I shouted towards the flying servant. Nah, nah, nah. The rider servant taunted. Can't catch me. Rare. I swung my sword with all the mana I gathered, throwing my lighting up into the sky towards him, but the annoying ass swerved out of the way. I tried to do the same as that bastard and shape my lighting, but magecraft or anything like that never made sense to me. It went further and was a bit faster, but that stupid bird horse was able to maneuver in the sky much better than its size suggested. I wasn't stupid. I could tell he was luring me away from the bastard. It was obvious they cooked up some scheme to deal with us, but the other bastard probably knew that too, so I didn't say anything. If only this asshole would properly lead me into the trap already. Woohoo! He cheered, doing flips in the air. Rider, time to get serious. I turned my head to see Lancer of Black standing off to the side. The horsebird slammed onto the ground right next to him. I'm always serious, the pink-haired servant laughed. About damn time. I growled, raising my blade towards them. I was going to settle for the fop over there, but I wouldn't mind taking you down too. The Lancer's servant ignored my jab, spinning his spear up into a proper grip. Regulated to mere distraction. How low I have fallen! He sighed. And I have to fight a brat like this. Saber, don't let him rile you up. Master's voice sounded out over our link. I gritted my teeth, but took a deep breath and didn't fall for his provocations. Feel free to run back over to the other fight. I withdrew my helmet so he could see the smirk on my face. But we both know you're just using this as an excuse to run away. Lancer's expression turned dark. Such insolence! He growled. Why should I be surprised when you allied with him? I just laughed at his annoyance. Come on, old man, let's see if you're allowed to call yourself a king in front of me. I do not need a child like you to acknowledge my rule. His magical energy surged. I built my kingdom upon the impaled bodies of my enemies. Thousands of my people met their ends at my hands. He waved his hand, and stakes burst out of the ground. Etch my name into your mind, for whose land you tread upon, and know my legacy. He held both hands out as the stakes began to increase in number. I am Vlad, king of Wallachia the Impaler. I gathered my own magical energy. My mana burst erupted around me with my signature lightning. I'm Mordred Pendragon, the rightful heir to Camelot. I gripped my sword tight as all the stakes flew towards me. And I'll be the one taking your head. Rebel! The king yelled in fury. A mockery of all who sit on a throne. I pushed back into the ground and burst forward towards the torrent of stakes, their sharp edges splintering on my armor, my lightning, making me strong enough to withstand the pressure. I swung my sword a few times to disrupt the brunt of the attack, enough that I made it through without suffering any noticeable injury. Our weapons clashed. He swung his spear with the entire weight of his body behind it. Sparks flew as the blades slid against one another. I pushed him off, following up with another full swing towards his torso, but he blocked it again. Another downward slash split the air, aiming at his head as he pushed into me to deflect it. I continued my flurry of attacks, each one having the ability to split him in half if he was even a second too slow. Each time we met, ground beneath us shattered, and he was forced back a step or two. Can't keep up, old man? I laughed. Didn't you say something last time about being invincible on your territory? That's right. That bastard mentioned something about him being stronger while on his land, but I'm not seeing it this time, so I guess this fake world was suppressing it. Don't get full of yourself. He sneered, jerking his hand full of a baleful aura. Stakes shot out of the ground to the sides. I quickly spun my body, slashing at all of them, the faint sense of danger on the back of my neck as they came towards me. He dashed to the side, moving around my back, spear piercing through the air towards me. Wide swings of his, aiming towards my lower body. I slammed my sword into the ground to block his sweep. Lightning crackled in my hand as I tossed it towards him. With a burst of speed, he dodged it easily, slamming his spear down atop me as I barely brought Clarence up to block in time. TCH. I clicked my tongue in annoyance. He's faster than me, but I'm stronger than him. And he realized it too, since he changed his strategy and wasn't meeting me head-on anymore. Slamming my foot on the ground, my gathered mana burst erupted out in every direction, knocking him away. Ryder, stop standing around. He shouted. Righto! That annoying asshole's voice reached my ears, his lance aiming at my back. Rah! I let out a pained shout. His lance tore through my armor on my lower back, digging into my flesh. I swung my sword around in a wide arc to push him away. Well done, Ryder. The king was back on me, spear swinging at my shoulder, and more stakes flying at me. I ducked to the side, swiping my sword at the annoying stakes that sprung from the ground. Relying on my mana burst again, I quickly regained my footing to knock his spear away at full force. Mindless berserker. The lancer smirked, stepping back. Here I come. The rider came swooping down on his mount, gathering speed at an astonishing rate, enveloped with the noticeable aura of mana. Quickly bringing Clarence up, I braced myself for the blow, my feet digging into the ground as his lance connected. The earth behind me tore apart, and I strained all my muscles to remain on my feet. Stakes shot from the ground, piercing my armor and tearing into me before I could destroy them. Master, give me your mana! I shouted through my link. I'll use one of those mana potions Wilhelm gave me. Go wild, he replied, and I couldn't help but smirk. Saber, by the power of his command spell. I felt my body be filled with power, and I knew just how to unleash it. I withstood the force of the blow, even if I felt the shock through my body and some blood leaked from my mouth. But my aura exploded out, my lightning went wild, and my mana enveloped me. My turn! I shouted, as Clarence's edge was suddenly enveloped with a thick bloodlust that shot towards the sky. Clarence Blood Arthur! I swung my noble phantasm out, the pillar of energy, of hate and anger chopped down right on top of Ryder. Oh no, I'm in danger. That stupid smile of his didn't leave his face. The ground ruptured completely, displacing large swathes of earth as the explosion blew out in every direction. My head snapped to the side at the spark of energy that revealed where Ryder teleported to. That was a Kloss! He stopped, looking down at his mount, surprised as he started to lose altitude. And I met his eyes, my empty hand still extended out with Clarence lodged in the neck of his beast. The body of his mount slammed to the ground, and Ryder stumbled to his feet. I erupted in a mana burst again, knowing I was probably putting a strain on the necromancer, but I knew I had to finish this fight. I swiped my hand through the air, Clarence returning back to me with another burst of lightning, my feet already kicking off the ground towards him, and I swung down at the pink-haired servant. He tried to dodge out of the way, but my blade slashed down through his chest, blood erupting at the motion. He dropped his lance, falling to the ground. Finally got you. I grinned savagely. Clarence flipped upside down, an edge pointing towards his heart. Haha, you sure did. He laughed again. Well, it was fun while it lasted. I blinked, confused at his response. You are a strange person. I muttered and pushed my blade down. He split blood from his mouth. Let's play again sometime, he said cheerfully, despite the fact that my sword was lodged into his heart. His body began to dissipate. I watched the mana flow up into the sky. Yeah, it was pretty fun, I guess, even if you were kinda annoying. I turned towards my last opponent, Lancer, who walked towards me, blood dripping down his body. He escaped a direct hit from my noble phantasm, but it was clear he got caught up in the blast. He looked upset, but still maintained his dignity, letting out a sigh. I'm the last one then, he muttered, looking up at the drifting particles of mana that was Ryder. Rebel, what's your wish on the Grail? He asked. I thought for a moment before answering. I want a chance to pull the sword from the stone and prove my worthiness. Lancer looked at me for a moment before he began to break down into laughter. He threw his head back, his boisterous laugh filling the tense atmosphere. Ha 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 ha. His hand gripped his face tight, and I finally realized something was wrong. It was strained, and he looked like he was in pain. Hioa! He growled, his eyes changing color. Darnik, what are you doing? He swung his body around crazily. The hell? I muttered, watching his writhing body. I told you I would not use this noble phantasm. He roared, spear dropping to the side. I am a king, not this bloodthirst abomination. His ears began to elongate. His skin turned a pale color, and his mouth filled with fangs. My knowledge of him entered my mind from the Grail, the legend associated with Vlad the Impaler, the vampire Dracula. Rebel, his distorted voice reached my ears. And me! He shook, hands turning into claws as he clearly fought against the transformation. His asshole of a master probably used a command seal. His new claws dug into his own flesh. I am not this thing, I am not Dracula. I bit my lips, bringing my sword up as I walked over to him. He looked at me with pleading eyes. This isn't how I wanted it to go. Even if he was my enemy, and I wanted to take his head, but not like this. It just felt wrong. His breathing became erratic. I am a king. I did what I did, and will not say a word to how history judged me. He stood up, legs shaking. But I will not be turned into this disgusting monster. His shout distorted the air around me. His hand reached out, shaking, and he had to steady it with his other. It grasped at the edge of my sword, and he ignored it as it cut into his palm, bringing it up to his neck. He looked, defeated like this. Grant me a king's death. I took a deep breath, putting strength into my arm, and brought my sword to press against his flesh. Yeah, this is how a king should act. I didn't like him, but I couldn't help but respect him like this. You're Vlad, king of Wallachia, and that's how I'll remember you. Closing my eyes, I swiped my sword. Hearing the thump of his body falling to the ground, I looked up towards the sky, watching as new motes of mana drifted up into the air. Why are my winds always so bitter? Wilhelm POV. I'll take your teachings to heart, Chiron. Sorry, I said quietly towards Achilles. I didn't even realize I said it until the words left my mouth. Achilles, despite the atmosphere, just laughed. Gods, did you just apologize for killing someone who was trying to take your life? He slapped his forehead, letting out a bellow. And I could tell you were being sincere. He shook his head, regaining his composure. Kinda just slipped out. A melancholic smile formed on his face. Don't spit on his memory. You fought and defeated him in a fight. Take pride in that. Yeah, I regained my wits. Just got swept up in the moment and remembered how my own teacher died. I smiled bitterly at the memory. Shall we continue? My swords hovered around me, and I was ready to shift back into battle mode. Always! He took a stance, even if that little spark in his eyes was gone. I paused, looking him over. A question came to the forefront of my mind. Hey, what's your wish? I asked. My wish. He looked at me confused. Well, I guess I would say I wanted to live up to the vow I made to my mother. He slammed his closed fist to his chest. To live like a hero and die like a hero, he declared proudly. But honestly, I just came to fight. He chuckled. What about you, chaste huntress? I turned my head up towards Atlanta, who already had arrows pulled against her bowstring. She slowly lowered her weapon, giving me a once-over. I want to bring salvation to all the children of the world. I want them to all know care and love. That was not what I expected. The Grail can't grant that wish. I replied. Atlanta, surprisingly, didn't dispute me or get annoyed at my statement. She knows. Achilles muttered. She knows it's an impossible dream, but still fights for it. There was no way for the Grail to be able to do something about that. What would it do? Send all the children without families to single adults. Clones adults, and give them to the children? It would bring havoc to the world. To be honest, I lost my will to fight them. After killing Chiron, I just don't want to kill them anymore. My desire for the Grail hadn't changed. But maybe there's an alternative. All right, I'm done. I stood up straight, letting go of my sword. What? Achilles looked at me, strangely. I'm done. I don't want to fight anymore. That isn't how this works. Achilles shouted towards me. Grab your weapon and fight me. I want a hero's fight. I will live or die like a hero. Okay, then live like one. I countered. Listen, you. Achilles, hush. Atlanta jumped down. What are you saying? She seems more open to persuasion. In another time, in another place. There was another Grail war, and some of the participants stuck around even after the Grail was dismantled. Atlanta let out a sigh. The dead don't belong among the living. We had our time, our era passed. Tell that to Medea, who's engaged to her master. I raised an eyebrow. What? Atlanta blurted out after hearing my words. While my knowledge on their relationship wasn't very detailed, I knew that they certainly shared a bond of some kind. It's sweet. I even got myself a wedding invitation. I smiled. She actually made the clothes I'm wearing. She's very skilled. And she started her own business, selling to other people. Of course, she would abuse her summons like that. Atlanta face-palmed. But still married. I intend to bring my servant away, and I already promised Assassin of blacking out. Not to mention my companion fighting over yonder. I jerked my thumb in the direction of Mordred's presence. So what's two more? Sis, you really considering this? Achilles looked towards her. She admittedly looked a little sheepish. Her ears fell down a little bit under his gaze. Little Medea getting married. She said quietly, Gods damn it. Achilles muttered. And what's in it for me, huh? Well, I won't spank you any more, for one. All right, let's go, you asshole. He flipped me the bird. Fine. I rolled my eyes. Well, there'll be plenty of fights in the future. I offered, and he did perk up a little bit. Not to mention the other servants still up, and about that wouldn't mind the occasional spar. And did I mention my birth world, the age of gods never ended? Lots to do there for someone with your skills. I began my sales pitch. Is there really a harm in living a second life? Fuck you. Achilles spat out, but it was less anger at my suggestions and more the fact that we both knew I had enticed him. Sis, what do you think? I'll follow you on this one. Atlanta looked at him, then back at me. I haven't heard from my master since my summoning. I vowed to fight on his behalf, but I don't think he's even alive anymore. The fact that we're having this conversation probably means the priest did something for sure. Yeah, me too. Achilles muttered. Interesting. I'm not afraid to fall in battle against an honorable foe, Achilles. She shot him a glance again. But, fine. Achilles cut her off, letting out a sigh. What's the worst that could happen? At the very least, I could get another good fight before fading. The corners of my lips curled up. Good, now let's discuss terms. I would quickly finish this up and go check on Reiku. By the drain on my magical energy, I could tell her battle was heating up. Chapter 192. POV Lancer of Red Karna. Wonderful! I exclaimed, clashing with my foe. Her sword was deadly, sharp and precise with each movement. My spear, which stabbed through the air dozens of times in a single breath, was met with a speed that perhaps surpassed mine, and a technique I couldn't help but admire. My flames clashed with her lightning at each interval, her divine lightning that was so much like my brother's. Oh, Agni! I activated my mana burst once again during this fight, only to be met by her own body being enveloped in lighting to ward me off. The ground beneath us turned molten, and the air crackled with sharp wisps of lightning, our weapons pushing away each other, neither giving an inch. I gathered power into my eye, the authority of the sun, inherited by my father, and compressed it before firing it off. A beam of pure destruction tore through the surroundings, the very air burning away at the touch. Unexpectedly, my opponent met it head-on. Sword in hand, lighting wreathed around her, she braced herself with her blade and blocked it, the sunlight fighting against her sword, but somehow she managed to hold strong. My opponent, the sister of my brother, she stepped forward and cut through my attack. An attack/power I had some manner of confidence in. She didn't stop, didn't relish in her small win, but instead attacked me once again. She was overpowering me in pure strength, breaking my guard. Her sword flashed out, digging into my chest. I reeled back quickly enough, a movement that barely mitigated a deep wound, even with my armor. Yes, my armor that should negate roughly 90% of each blow was overcome, ignored for lack of a better term. No, that wasn't entirely accurate. My armor provided resistance, but it was noticeably less than it should be. Not to mention that she blocked my attack from before, somehow diffusing the accumulated weight behind the blow. I shouldn't be surprised at this point. She had taken my arm previously. It did not faze me, Neither of us would back down at such wounds like these. I planted my front foot firmly, gathering enough power, and thrusted my spear with the explosive power of my flames behind me. Knowing she couldn't properly evade or block, she instead grabbed hold of the shaft. My spear dug into her stomach, but she resisted the worst of it with a grit of her teeth, her hand burning as she gripped my divine spear. Ha! She swung her sword with one hand, discharging her lightning from above. I decided to take a step back, having won this small exchange. It was just in time, too, as an invisible force rippled across the battlefield. A sonic attack carved out swathes of land in the distance, some even coming our way. We both noticed the danger, jumping out of the way before the ground we were just standing on had disappeared. It was a momentary lapse in our battle, both of us looking at the strange creature that could be seen in the distance. My opponent, even more so, looked at the creature, recognizing the one who fought it. I could have attacked, in this moment that she let her guard down, but I held my spear back. That was not the win I wished to have. Is it wise to ignore me in our battle? I spoke up, to grab her attention once more. I could see that she was hesitant to ignore what was happening with her master. It spoke of her character that she worried, so I did not falter on this. How strange it was to see a berserker so lucid, to think so rationally. It was a small jest that I found amusing. How her master had gone around calling her Saber, so I did not speak up about it. My ability discernment of the poor allowed me to view into her true nature and character. Though, it still did not allow me to feel or see through her master, who continued to be an enigma for me. In another time and place, I wish I could have learned more about him. To fight him, not as enemies, but maybe a friendly duel. Thank you for waiting, she said quietly, regaining her resolve, her sword brought back up into a proper stance. Of course. I smiled lightly, swinging my spear back through my wafting flames. No more words as the next clash began. She burst out with her divine lightning. The lack of obvious drain on her magical reserves just served to emphasize how strong her master was to support her continued costs. I was vaguely aware of how my own master was drawing in magical energy from an unnatural means, and yet she was keeping up with me in expenditure. Fast. I should have been faster as I was summoned under the Lancer class, yet she was not losing out to me in the slightest, and even stronger than me in other aspects. I narrowly moved to the side, her blade cutting my cheek, our eyes meeting with my own spear swinging towards her head. She quickly pivoted, knocking it away with a flick of her wrist and trying to follow up with a downward slash at my neck. I shot my knee up at the wound on her stomach, but she slammed her fist down to meet it. I instead went low, sweeping at her legs, but she instead opted to trade, blade once again aiming for my neck. Realizing I would lose on this exchange, I had my flames erupt between us, knocking us both back. Your martial arts are exemplary. I praised her. I dare not claim to be your superior in this regard. Your technique is one I have not experienced before, but you are among the best I've ever crossed blades with. She returned with her own words. I wish I had the opportunity to show my bow skills, but alas. I flipped my spear back towards her. I am constrained by this class. She gave a small smile. I too wish I could compete with you in bow skills. It was strange to fight to the death like this, yet have no ill will towards her. Even if I kept projecting my half-brother upon her, it was not out of spite or anger. I waved my hand, my divine flames condensing and firing out. She swung her sword, discharging bolts of her divine lightning to intercept. And again, we began another clash. Wilhelm POV, Achilles, and Atlanta had complied with the terms I set out, and they even opted to abandon this fortress and head back to the town we first met. I wanted them to be far away, just in case the priest tried to use them for anything. If he tried to use a command seal to teleport them over, I was confident in being able to disrupt it with my expertise on space manipulation. I bit my lip, looking in the direction of where Mordred went. I knew she could handle herself fine, but I was oddly finding myself worrying about her. I gave Kyrie a few things that should skew any fight in their favor, but both Lancer of Black and Rider of Black were noticeably absent. Well, I would trust my new son. They had a full set of command seals as well. That wasn't anything to scoff at. I only had a rough estimate of how far Reiku and Karna moved away. In usual circumstances, I would need some special calculations to navigate this small world since it was a facet of someone's noble phantasm, but since it's in such disarray, I didn't feel like I would be hindered, especially if I only had to eyeball everything at this distance. Gripping Mirage, I slashed my sword through the air. I was about to jump through until I noticed the sky changed colors. A sense of danger washed over me, and it was coming from the direction of Reiku. Without a second thought, I quickly went through, the scenery around me changing in an instant. The ground had turned to lava in many places, and there were craters littering the ground. "Master!" I heard Reika's voice not far away. She did not look in the best of shape. She was even wounded in several places. "Reiku," I said softly, "you're hurt." "Master, I'm fine." She quickly dismissed me. "Please escape, Master." She tried to urge me. "Master of Minamoto no Reiku." Karna's voice boomed. He hovered a little bit in front of my servant. "You've come," he stated, meeting my gaze. "You have appeared at an opportune moment. Your servant fought valiantly, but I will end this with my strongest attack." The armor around his body was burned away. His armor, that I could deduce was divine in origin, completely disintegrated. "I shall require a blow that brings complete annihilation," he declared, raising his arms up, and the already strained sky cracked and shattered. "Master!" Reika shouted towards me. "Please flee. I do not know if I can handle this, and I don't wish you to fall because of my ineptitude." I looked at her, then at Karna, who made my hair stand up on the back of my neck. "Yet, you'll stay here and fight to the end?" I shook my head. "I told you before, we're in this together. If you want to fight, I'll support you as your master." The conflicted look on her face was hard to see, but I knew this meant a lot for her. "I'm not leaving." I crossed my arms. "So you just have to do your best to protect me." "Master." Her eyes softened. A master is part of a servant's strength. Karna watched down above us, a surprisingly gentle smile on his face. "I can only blame my misfortune that I do not have one as good as yours, sister." The way he called Reika's sister did make my eyes widen a little. The familiarity and kindness he relayed in that word, it made me question how they truly saw one another. Was it his way of recognizing Reiku as an equal? I held out my hand, the staff of Magnus appearing from my ring. Grand healing. It was one of the strongest healing spells I learned from Skyrim that I could reasonably cast on another person, and Reika's wounds visibly began to heal. "Good." Karna seemed pleased. "Let our fight come to its conclusion." He raised his arms aloft, almost lazily, as the very space trembled and ignited. It was like a second sun descended into this miniature world, and at the seams that held it together began to collapse at the sheer weight behind his actions. A pillar of fire erupted around him, turning the entire ground into molten slag. Rivers of lava cascading out in every direction. The fire's conglomerate, combined into an appearance of an eye, one that gazed down upon all living beings and judged them. Perhaps I'm mistaken, but it looked like it cast its gaze upon Reiku for just a second longer before exploding into a red hue that overtook the other phenomena that blanketed the fake sky. The flames and light combined, a weapon descended into Karna's hand. Danger, death, destruction, the feelings that practically screamed in my direction, they all emanated from that spear. It was the same spear he held before, but changed. It looked different, but that was just its physical appearance. It was more. "Brat, that this is dangerous." Drake spoke in my mind. I didn't need to be told that. "Reiku." I held up the hand that contained the contract between us. By the power of these two command seals, the magical energy burst out. "Use everything you have and release your noble phantasm," I declared. Her power temporarily expanded immensely, and she raised her sword up. Not only was she pulling as much magical energy for me as possible, but the command seals elevated her next action up several levels. "Know the mercy of the King of Gods," Karna stated, his voice vibrating through the air as he held the spear down, pointing at us. He became a new sun in the sky. "Master." She looked over to me. "You willingly accepted a demon like me as your servant," she said quietly, her face full of resolve. "If you command it so, I, Reiku, shall become an Oni." The divine lightning around her erupted, almost like it was challenging the divine sun in the sky, daring it to attack. The waves of purple lightning that arced across the ground with Reiku at the epicenter. Come to me, my loyal subjects, my limbs, my arms, and my armor. The 4 heavenly kings themselves are as before you." Several bolts of lightning tore through the fiery skies, slamming into the ground. 4 more Rakas appeared at their point of impact. Each of them wielded a different weapon, a katana different from her own, a battle axe that shined gold, a spear that flowed like water, and a bow that the wind seemed to coil around. Reinforced by the power of 2 command seals, this noble phantasm was powerful, yet, with a single attack, I shall inflict extinction. Karna was unwavering, and his power still seemed to eclipse Reika's own. Be reduced to cinders. He aimed a spear downwards. There has been something that made me curious ever since I acquired the boosted gear. Looking over at Reiku, who seemed ready to engage, to meet the attack head-on. What would happen if I boosted a noble phantasm? I said quietly, raising my hand towards the clones of my servant. Drade began to cackle like mad. Boost, boost, boost. Boost, boost. I didn't have too many boosts stored at the moment, but I felt like it was just the right amount for a first test. If I wasn't in Balance Breaker, with the means to better control this power, I would have never considered it. Transfer. The clones, the noble phantasm of Reiku, the power, their existence enlarged, and their physical forms followed. It wasn't just a matter of increasing the magical energy to make it stronger. I was conceptually adding power to the weight of the legend. Almost like a broken phantasm, but a different form of application. Reika's eyes widened, and even Karna seemed completely stunned, even if neither allowed themselves to be distracted. Vasvi Shakti! Karna's words silenced the world. Well, except for one other voice. Ox King Storm Call, the inescapable net of heaven. The 4 giant clones attacked together. A massive pillar of light came down, a decree to exterminate everything below, a divine judgment from a god. From the earth, the giant clones of Reiku ascended. The one wielding the bow poured all of its power into a single shot before dispersing. The power of wind carried it, bringing with it the wrath of a hurricane. The clone wielding a katana shot forth, burning bright for just a moment, swinging the sword and summoning a fire to contend with the sun. The one with the spear pierced towards the oncoming purge, the decree of annihilation with the force of a tsunami. The last one, it wielded a golden axe, and with every ounce of power afforded to it, it swung a single time. The golden light gathered at the edge of the axe and burst out towards the oncoming threat. The 4 elemental attacks, enhanced by the power of 2 command seals, then boosted many folds by my own effort. Reiku raised her blade up high, and all the lightning she gathered crackled around her. That familiar purple lighting that jolted in every direction, pulsing with divinity. The power gathered was immense. The very air crackled with residual static for hundreds of yards all around. Seemingly turning into the divine lightning itself, she took hold of it all and shot towards the sky. The spear that felt like it could fell gods was met in equal footing. Perhaps it was because Karna could not wield its full potential, or it was because of my interference, but Reika's lightning tore into the attack the help of her clones. I had to summon a shield to protect me just from the collision of power and subsequent eruption that was created at the focal point. The 2 noble phantasms stalemated and dispersed one another. Both Reiku and Karna fell from the sky, slamming into the ground. Both were looking worse for wear, standing up shakily. Karna, who was the first to act, had placed his hand onto the ground. Thorns of fire burst from the air, filling the space as they jabbed out towards Reiku. I waved my staff, shooting off lightning arrows to intercept. Reika glanced back at me for the briefest of moments before charging at Lancer. Karna tried to bring up his flames again, but they looked haggard, almost forcibly exerted instead of the ease he manipulated them from before. Reika's sword swung through them with ease, the flame dispersing at the touch of her blade. Karna brought up a spear to block, but it was clear he was on the back foot. I held the staff up, aiming towards Reiku. Scatter! I cast the illusion spell I was the most familiar with. Never my area of expertise, but I was decent enough. Not to mention with my nature of lightning added up. Well, the spell meshed with whom I had targeted. A dozen more Reikas appeared around her. Each one crackled slightly, just as she did, adding on a spell to obscure vision, for just a second to make him question which one was her. Given another few moments, maybe Karna would have been able to discern which was real or not, but in his exhausted state, wounded as he was, it was enough. He had no choice but to have his flames envelop him and burst out in every direction. A large-scale attack as all the clones moved together. They dispersed but bought the necessary time. Reika's sword found its target, slamming through Karna's chest, with no divine armor to mitigate the damage. Karna's body was impaled to the ground, Reika's sword sticking out, and he didn't fight it. A content smile appeared on his face. "Well done." He instead praised her. "You fought well. I only won because I had help." Reika shook her head. "A master is part of your strength, sister." Karna let out a small but strained chuckle. "You know we are not related." Karna closed his eyes. "I am aware," he replied. "Consider it me just being selfish." That smile didn't leave his face, even as his began to dissipate. "I wonder if we would have gotten along in life." "I think we would have." Reika's gentle words took me by surprise. "Goodbye, brother." She accepted the title, giving him a last farewell. I gave her a moment to collect herself, watching the remnants of Lancer flow away. There were many thoughts in my mind. Would things have been different if Lancer had a proper master? From what Atlantis said, they were not in contact with theirs, so it was likely Karna was not as well. Karna, what a scary guy. That spear of his, it was dangerous, and it genuinely frightened me to be on the receiving end of. If Reika didn't have her mystery slayer, combined with 2 command seals, and me boosting her noble phantasm. In any other circumstances, I would have not stood there and watched if I ran away. But I pushed those thoughts to the side for now. "Reiku, this place is collapsing, we should move." The sky was crumbling, and fissures were forming in the very space that supported this small world. "Yes, let's finish this, Master." Reika nodded. "Yeah, it's time to finish this war." Chapter 193. POV Ruler Jean d'Arc. I wished I did not have to separate from Wilhelm. I didn't want to turn around since I would only feel sad at the goodbye. For some reason, it felt like a true farewell. I knew that we would have to separate eventually, it's just, I've never had many friends. Even when I marched to war in my life, I had admirers, soldiers, and subordinates. I think the only person who I could have called a friend was Gillis. The time spent was short, but I was happy he called me a friend, even if he did tease me relentlessly, and I had to resist the urge to smack him with my flag on many occasions. It was nice. I would make sure to properly thank the Lord of giving me such a gift during this fleeting existence. Not once had I ever regretted my decisions to listen to the word of God. If presented with the same choice, I would have not wavered in following the same path. But it was pleasant to experience something a little different amongst the fighting that took place. I sincerely hoped that I would not have to fight him. I would do everything I could to fulfill my duties, but that did not mean I wanted to harm him. I let the feeling I had in my heart pull me where it wished me to go. The will of God led me through this field of destruction, navigating the pieces of the noble phantasm left shattered/broken from Wilhelm's attack. There were traps that I walked by, noticing the faint pulsing of magical energy. It seemed that my faith led me to avoid the worst of them, and the others simply could do nothing when triggered against my innate magical resistance. A few of those skeleton soldiers sprang up every so often, but they were felled by a sweep of my banner. Eventually, I came upon a small archway, a half-standing door that seemed to still be active. If not for the guidance I was receiving, I was sure I would have overlooked it as nothing more than rubble. I stepped through without hesitation, the air in front of me like water as the scenery changed with a single step forward. I was in a garden, or what was left of one. Many strange, yet beautiful plants were all around me, lots of which were disturbed, destroyed, or otherwise ripped out of the ground from the destructive fall. This place was strange. This entire structure was like its own small world. Every doorway, while leading somewhere else, led to its own space. It amazed me that Wilhelm was able to destroy such a thing with modern magecraft. Then again, he'd been showing some very spectacular things since the start of this war. Being able to fight on par, and even defeat servants while still being a living being. And seeing his other displays of magecraft had been enlightening. I barely understood the basics, even with this knowledge the Grail granted me, yet still, I could understand how amazing he was as a magus. The further in I moved, the more the whole place looked, stitched together for lack of a better word, like a seamstress taking several different articles of clothing and turn them into something wearable, even if it was an awkward sight to behold. I approached one final door, and the feeling I had intensified several-fold, and I knew whatever was behind this door was what I was looking for. Without hesitation, I pushed it open. Many eyes turned to face me. "I told you she would find her way here, assassin." A gentle voice rang out across this room. I looked up to see Assassin, Semiramis, sitting upon a decadent throne. It looked barely held together, and the room itself looked like a patchwork of many different buildings forced to merge. I didn't see where the voice came from, but I looked around to quickly study the area and search out potential foes, just in case. And a new actress appears. A man stepped forward, giving a bow. "It's a pleasure to meet you, ruler." "Castor," I said quietly, meeting his gaze. He was Shakespeare, a famous playwright. My mind was filled with knowledge of him and his abilities as a servant. He was weak in physical means, but he still gave me a dangerous feeling. "Ridiculous," Assassin spat out angrily. "How did she navigate through what remains of my gardens? I can barely navigate them as they are, and it's my noble phantasm. Faith in God will not lead one astray." The voice sounded out again as a new figure walked out from behind the throne. As soon as I saw him, my mind froze and my eyes widened. "Impossible," I muttered. "You shouldn't be here." I gripped my banner tightly. "As expect, you too can see through my identity." The man smiled towards me. "As one ruler to another, it's a pleasure to meet you, Saintess of Orleans." He's the master of these two servants, but his true identity, you're the ruler from the previous war. How are you still here? And they finally meet. Shakespeare laughed. What's in store for our two fellows of God? Will they join forces or fight over different ideals? And you ruined the moment. Assassin deadpanned. Despite the tone of their words, the atmosphere was tense as if a fight would break out at any moment. I flipped my banner into a position to better defend. My instincts were telling me that this would end in no other way but a fight. "Oh well." The other, ruler, shrugged his shoulders. "I guess you won't even listen to what I have to say." He held his hand out and summoned an armament into it, a katana of some strength. "You are breaking the rules. There is nothing else that needs be spoken." I glared. "I'm trying to save humanity." He countered. "I will use the Grail to make sure no one ever has to die again. No one will ever suffer again. Humanity will be elevated to a higher state." "That's a foolish sentiment," I retorted. "If you can't see the flaws in your desire, then there is nothing left to be spoken between us." I glanced around the room one last time to get an idea of how I would be attacked. "Hand over the Grail, or I will retrieve it by force until the war has ended." The former ruler's servant shook his head. "I will leave my fate up to God." He took a stance. "If I fall, then my ideals were simply wrong." He held his blade aloft, eyes full of conviction. And I knew he would not be persuaded. Wilhelm POV. "Mordred, Kyrie." I practically slid to a stop in front of them. "We need to get out of here." "You think?" Mordred sassed, gesturing to the literal holes in the sky. I rolled my eyes, swiping my sword through the air. "All right, and you lot go." I pushed them through quickly without hearing any back sass. Reika didn't argue as she hurriedly stepped through as well before I followed. I let out a breath as I looked up and saw a more sturdy sky above us, even if it was still a fake one. "Should be fine here." I took a moment to catch my breath. "Good, I just need a second." Mordred found a large piece of rubble and collapsed onto it, sword stabbing into the ground. Yeah, that sounded good too. I allowed myself to slump down against the same huge chunk of stone. "Everyone good?" "I'll live." Mordred waved me off. "Tired as fuck, but I managed to take out two." She seemed proud, but there was a slight melancholic undertone. "Well done." I gave her praise. She didn't say anything, but she did perk up a little bit. "Master, you're wounded." Reika decided to give me a once-over. Her eyes trailed down to the hole in my armor where Chiron got me. "Yeah." My hand brushed over the spot. "I'm good now, healed it up fine." I replied. Reika pursed her lips, clearly upset at my being hurt, but didn't speak again, just continuing to fuss over me. I reached out and took her hand, gaining a bright smile from her. With a thought, I began casting a healing spell. It was much easier to actualize when I was in physical contact with someone than casting from a distance. "Kyrie." I grabbed the other Magi's attention. You good? I asked. He didn't look untouched. Yeah. He nodded, taking out a cigarette. Almost got hit by some stray attacks, but I'm good. You don't last long in my job without some healing spells under your belt. He grinned. Those mana potions are great, though. He shot me a thumbs up. Any chance you want to sell a few more to me after we're done? I snorted. When we're done, I'll give you a few crates as thanks. I did appreciate the help he was providing, and mana potions didn't mean much to me as they would another magus. The other master let out a laugh. I'll hold you to that. Master, won't you remove that armor and rest properly for a moment? Reika looked towards me sadly. I let out a sigh. To be honest, I don't trust my ability to bring it back up if I dismiss it now. With how much I've been using Balance Breaker, I'm probably going to crash once I take it off. The boosts had pushed past my limits consistently, and my body will have to cope with the strain somehow after it's over. Let's finish this. I stood back up, looking around. Let's fucking go. Mordred jumped off her seat, shattering the ground. Her armor was not looking good, and she had some wounds, but that grin of hers was ever present. I walked over, putting my hand on her head with a grin. The hell are you? She was about to get annoyed until my hand burst out in a healing light. Ass. She muttered, but accepted it. Later, tell me how your fight went. I smiled towards her. Fine. She grunted, a little happy it seemed. So I think that's another doorway over there. I pointed towards a couple arches, barely standing together. You sure? Kyrie raised an eyebrow. I shrugged. I'm pretty confident to make sure nothing happens in a spatial transference. So what's the worst that could happen if I'm wrong? Fair. He nodded. Lead the way then. He gestured. Reiku. I turned towards my servants. I'm here, master. She quickly regained her serious face. She was ready for battle. I am ready for whatever waits for us. Good. I punched my fist into my palm. I want to see that priest again. I have some words for him. Walked up, I placed my hand against the portal that seemed to emerge as I touched the arches. It's steady, I declared before pushing my way through. The others followed behind immediately, but my focus was taken by the sound of steel meeting in combat. Wilhelm. Jean turned towards me in surprise as she deflected a sword being swung at her. You've arrived as well. The priest looked at me. He was trading blows with Ruler. He was trading blows with a servant. Wilhelm, careful. He's the Ruler from the last war. Jean quickly relayed, just as the others came as well. That explains way too much. I narrowed my eyes. So many bugs inside my throne room. Assassin spoke out, her voice booming over the noise. I looked towards the familiar women who sat upon a throne. The one who hurt Sir Wiggles. One larger than the others. Her eyes looked at me with a fury behind them. Surprisingly, she didn't immediately attack, only lazily watching us. Curious. Castor, it's your turn, she declared as a new person walked out from behind a nearby pillar. Oh ho, I'm actually taking the stage, how rare. The servant spoke. I've been meaning to meet you for a while, young Wilhelm. Oh. I raised an eyebrow, even if my focus didn't waver from my surroundings. I don't suppose you'd like to introduce yourself then? William Shakespeare. He bowed. At your service. I blinked at his blatant introduction. I admit, I didn't think you would actually tell me your name. Shakespeare let out a laugh. A playwright must make their name known to the audience. He smiled bright. William Shakespeare. I muttered. I'm a little surprised, but otherwise happy to meet you. I'm a big fan of your work. The Castor servant blinked. Truly? Is that so surprising? Your works are one of the cornerstones of literature in the modern era. Ha! He turned, pointing towards Assassin. See? My works are famous. Assassin scowled. Stop playing around. Humph. Castor snorted. I was actually in theater club when in school. I admit, I was a bit starstruck with him. I didn't expect to meet someone like him here. An artist, not a traditional warrior. I let out a sigh. If I had one of your works on me, I'd ask for an autograph. That being said, I wasn't exactly letting my guard down. I was scanning the room to look to see if there were any hidden dangers present. After having to suffer through the ignorance of my allies, your words bring me such joy. He clutched his heart dramatically. How I wish I could have spoken with you more. He shook his head. Alas, The stage does not wait for any more, even the writer. He grinned, a book appearing in his hand. I felt a sense of danger, and one of my swords shot out at him, piercing through his body. But he didn't budge. That grin of his never faded. His body, the wound didn't bleed. In fact, it looked more like pages being torn from a book than actual flesh. I'm afraid. I have no choice in the matter. There was a small bit of sympathy in his voice. My noble phantasm had already been cast before you arrived. You are formidable in combat, in magic and martial prowess. I am a weak servant, only sufficient to wield a pen. But they say the pen is mightier than the sword. Shall we put those words to the test? His arms outstretched, the area around us began to change. His body shifted, turning into pieces of parchment that flew all around me. Let the curtain rise and the show begin. Master! Reiku yelled, but her voice was cut off and she disappeared. The applause will shake the earth, the cheers of 10,000. Shakespeare's voice echoed all around me, even as I lost vision of anything else. I looked down at my hands. My eyes widened in horror. My scale mail began to disappear from my body. Draig! I blurted out. There was no response. The parchment began to conglomerate, turn into a physical form. Behold, the title of my noble phantasm, first folio. My attention was no longer on the voice of Shakespeare, but on the figure that appeared, manifested from his noble phantasm. Red hair that matched mine, eyes that matched mine, and a voice that made my breathing pick up. Hello, son! Chapter 194. I stared at the person standing in front of me. I knew who he was, but his name wouldn't leave my mouth. I felt my arms tremble, and my hands balled into fists. No, this is impossible. I whispered. Is it? The person, the thing, replied. You should be the authority on what is or is not impossible, right? I raised my hand and pointed at him warily. You aren't real, I declared. A figment of my imagination. I took a deep breath, steadying myself, gaining a smirk. Shakespeare's noble phantasm is unlikely one to do any kind of physical or magical damage. It's against his nature, and his words were enough for him in the past. I began to voice my thoughts, distracting myself from the person who was in front of me. The reason I can't hear Draig, why I can't feel my aura. I paused, trying to call up a spell to actualize, even trying to pull on the kaleidoscope, all to no avail. In normal circumstances, I would have been panicking if everything of mine had been so thoroughly sealed away like this by an enemy, but my mind raced, going into overdrive before I saw through this noble phantasm. It's a mental attack. I sneered at him. Or rather, it attacks one's heart. This isn't real. I'm not real, you aren't real. It uses my own circumstances to create this world around us. I waved my hand. Not a true world, but a projection of my mental state, of my heart. I walked to the edge, smacking the side with no reaction. I'm projecting myself into this overlaid domain created by his noble phantasm. It's why I can't draw upon my magic, because I'm not truly here while also being here. I'm in my own self-contained world that doesn't actually change anything about the greater world. I looked back over to him, to the fake person who I never wished to meet. That's it, isn't it? I grinned. Well, I can praise Shakespeare for casting his noble phantasm before we even appeared, setting it up like so. I scowled, crossing my arms. Why did his noble phantasm summon you of all people? If he's trying to get a rise out of me, wouldn't my mom work better? Hell, what about one of my girls? Please, we both know you wouldn't take it seriously if it was one of them. My fake father scoffed. If it was one of your, he air quoted, girls, then you would probably just flirt with them regardless of what they said or did. Yeah, I'd probably do exactly that. And if it was my mom, well, I wouldn't mind seeing her again. I mused out loud. You really do like to hear yourself talk. The fake version of my father glanced back at me, almost appearing uninterested that I was able to understand the whole situation so easily. Then again, you do always go on about how you have a flair for the theatrical. He crossed his arms. You always have to try and explain everything, don't you? To prove just how smart you really are. He took a step forward facing me. Why don't we just call it what it really is, attention-seeking? But that's always been the case. He snorted. Even before. He added air quotes again. You joined the theater club in school, The one club you could pretend to be important in. The one place you could have everyone focus their attention solely on you. He turned around away from me, facing the blank walls. You should be thankful. After all, this stage has been set just for you. Heroes of legend here to witness your best moments. Fuck you. I spat out almost unconsciously. Like you have any ground to bring shit like that up. Yes. What a horrible father I've been. He rolled his eyes again. I'll make it up to you and give you the one thing you so crave. He smirked, turning back towards the walls. They can see. So don't worry, let's give them a show. He raised a hand up, pointing outwards. But first, it's important to introduce the cast. No. My eyes widened, realizing what he was going to say. What? My dear child, are you ashamed of where you come from? He chuckled. Are you worried how that saintess will look at you afterwards? Your hints weren't very subtle when you probed her. Or maybe you think your new son won't like what she has to hear him. I felt my breathing pick up. I didn't know how to respond. I'll take a page out of your book. He threw his hands up. Allow me to introduce myself to the audience. He did an exaggerated bow. I am the father of this bastard. He did an exaggerated gesture towards me. I am the ruler of hell. His grin turned vicious. I am Lucifer. Mordred POV. As soon as we walked in, Caster of Red's noble phantasm went off. None of us expected this. It wasn't an attack in the normal way, and even as we banged on this thing that Caster made around the bastard, it didn't budge. What did you do? The cow roared, throwing herself at Caster. I give up. The Caster shrieked, surprising everyone present. Even the cow stopped for a moment, but raised her blade to him. Remove it, she growled. I can't. Shakespeare put his hands up in surrender. My master used a command seal, so it would activate on your master as soon as he entered the room. Then I will kill you and end it, she declared. Killing me won't end it. He chuckled. He's lying, do it. Assassin butt in, almost bored with their conversation. No one will miss him. Feel free. She tapped her fingers on her throne, sitting so high above us. Annoying bitch. I resisted the urge to start swinging Clarence at her. But my master was right behind me, so I had to be smarter. But she didn't make a move, and the two rulers were squaring off. I decided to hold off for now. The cow reached over, grabbing him by the collar. Tell me how to end it, or I'll start cutting pieces off. There's no way. The caster looked pale. He has to break free of it himself. Then you're useless. The cow's expression turned dark. There's a better chance of him escaping if I'm still alive. Caster quickly spoke. If I'm dead, it'll go on forever, but if I'm satisfied, it'll end with the playwright's blessing. The cow sneered, and the caster gave a cheeky smile. Sounded like bullshit to me, but some noble phantasms are fucking weird. Add on a command seal, and even stranger things can happen. She punched him in the face. If it was anyone else, I would totally cheer for them, but fuck the cow bitch. She tossed his body to the side, then went over to the dome, or whatever that was blocking the bastard inside. It was obvious he couldn't see us, and there was someone talking to him. They looked alike, so probably his father or something. It's not like I knew anything about his family. Allow me to introduce myself to the audience. The strange guy turned to us, obviously speaking to us through the noble phantasm. I am this bastard's father. I am the ruler of hell. I am Lucifer. What? I blurted out, but it was only met with silence. The two rulers who had been fighting, they abruptly stopped, staring over. The tense atmosphere sort of disappeared. Even Assassin looked dumbfounded at what he said. What a wonderful twist. Caster shouted happily, but even he was ignored. Disgusting. Assassin sneered. This wretched creature should be removed from the world. The cow looked furious. I knew for a fact that this bitch would rip apart that guy who called himself Lucifer if she could. Wilhelm, the saintess spoke up, looking at him strange. I see, even the devil tries to stop me. The annoying priest had a weird look too. It just shows that I'm walking the right path if the creatures of hell stand in my way. I will remove the stain before saving the world. The bast. I stopped the thought in its tracks. He really was a bastard. Ha! The literal bastard of Satan. Why did that sound familiar? Master, the fuck am I supposed to do? I asked him. He was Magus. He should know more stuff about this. This is way above my pay grade. Master looked conflicted. Fuck, this isn't good. Does that mean he's an enemy? He's a demon or something, that's bad, right? But even if he was an ass and an arrogant dick, he wasn't that bad. He's kinda like me. Was he an unwanted bastard too? My fingers tightened around Clarence's handle. Fuck you, I shouted, snapping my head towards the other ruler. You fake priest. I leveled Clarence towards him. Father chose him as his queen. You don't get to say shit about him. That's right, Father chose him. That means he's not bad. And he's nice to me. Even if he's a dick, he praised me, and even wanted to help me with my wish. That's not something some fucking demon would do. My lighting burst out around me. Let's see you do something with my sword shoved all the way up your ass. I raised my middle finger up, sneering towards him. Father wasn't here, so I would protect him in Father's place. He's part of Camelot now, and no one gets to say shit about our people but us. Wilhelm POV. I could feel my muscles tense, in a mixture of anger and anxiety. Father, don't make me laugh. Do you even know the definition of the word? You absentee piece of shit. I scoffed, trying to shake off his words. Are you supposed to be my trauma that this noble phantasm brings out? I stood up straighter, straightening my tie. What makes you think you even deserve to be on that list? I looked down my nose at him. You are insignificant. Yes, I'm insignificant. He hummed. Then let's talk about your little girlfriends. The corners of his lips curled up. Don't you fucking dare. Oh, am I touching a nerve? How unfortunate. What could someone as insignificant as me say, He started walking around, knowing it was giving me anxiety. Though, can you even call them that? What nonsense are you spouting now? Well, do you even know what a proper girlfriend is? Hell, do you even have a real relationship with any of them? Clearly you don't know me then. I guess this noble phantasm only amounts to this much. I said dryly. Oh, stop being obtuse, you know damn well what I mean, and you're just scared to accept it. He hummed again. I know how you need things so blatantly spelled out sometimes. He paused in his steps again. Are they your girls, or are they your things? I stopped. You have no idea what you're talking about. You so crave attention in all of its forms. He mocked. Face it, they're your little emotional support puppets for whenever you're feeling lonely. You're so terrified of being alone that you try to surround yourself with people to fawn over you. Bullshit! I shouted, throw my arm out. I care about them, I love them. He laughed. My breathing hitched. So, when was the last time you said that to any of them? Love is something built over time. I said quietly. Uh-huh. He mockingly nodded. Apparently love is something built up over time, yet you're so quick to attach yourself to them. Should we talk about Kunu? I fucking dare you. I uncharacteristically threw myself at him, but something stopped me from touching him. A sort of barrier wouldn't let me even grab at his clothes. Consider that nerve touched. He smiled mirthfully. Well, I wouldn't want to say anything bad about my precious granddaughter, would I? He lightly poked me, initiating the same barrier around me, almost forcing me on my butt. But let's talk about the real reason you haven't said it. The truth you refuse to acknowledge. No, it's obvious what you're going. I took a deep breath, calming myself down. Was this noble phantasm instigating everything, making my emotions flare more easily? I'm ashamed I let myself be led by the nose for so long. So what? Do I just confront the worst parts of myself? All my insecurities are being pulled into the light. I waved my hands around. Fucking Latians. I have some issues because my early life was not ideal thanks to some cunt who wouldn't be ours to give two shits beyond throwing a child into the corner and forgetting about him. Do you want a medal for pointing that out? Or is it just fun to expose all my personal matters in public? He didn't seem fazed at all, practically ignoring me. And you self-deprecate in an attempt to shift the conversation because you're scared. You know what I'm going to say. Well then. I gestured towards him with a sneer. Go on, regale us with your explanations of why I'm such a mess. He shook his head with a fake sadness. It's because you know they don't love you. Bullshit. I spat out immediately. Meridia. He spoke pointedly. Do you really think you matter at all to her? How old is she? She could be called ancient when this world was born. Do you think an entity like that cares at all about a speck of dust like you? Of course she does. I countered. Because you both fucked. He laughed. Face it, you're a passing amusement to her. Something she'll forget in a few thousand years when you're no longer an interest to something like her. He continued without a break. Artoria, let's talk about her. You were the first man ever to show her a romantic interest. Of course she would get attached. But do you really think she'll stick around once she gets more confidence in herself, when she realizes that she's actually a good catch? And Jin, do I really need to even talk about her? You were her only lifeline out of her literal prison. Of course she would care for you. She wouldn't want to be stuffed back into her lamp for eternity on a dying world. Why, you're misrepresenting everything. Am I? He raised an eyebrow. Am I really? Of course. I snorted, but for some reason I felt a pain in my chest. Okay. He nodded. Okay. I repeated in confusion. Let's agree to disagree. He nodded towards me with a chuckle. For your sake, I won't even mention Kunu. The way he teased it probably did more to rouse my anger than if he actually said anything. Come. I wouldn't let him get to me. Well then. I gestured towards him with a sneer. Go on, regale us with your explanations of why I'm such a mess. He shook his head with a fake sadness. It's because you know they don't love you. Bullshit. I spat out immediately. Meridia. He spoke pointedly. Do you really think you matter at all to her? How old is she? She could be called ancient when this world was born. Do you think an entity like that cares at all about a speck of dust like you? Of course she does. I countered. Because you both fucked. He laughed. Face it, you're a passing amusement to her. Something she'll forget in a few thousand years when you're no longer an interest to something like her. He continued without a break. Artoria, let's talk about her. You were the first man ever to show her a romantic interest. Of course she would get attached. But do you really think she'll stick around once she gets more confidence in herself, when she realizes that she's actually a good catch? And Jin, do I really need to even talk about her? You were her only lifeline out of her literal prison. Of course she would care for you. She wouldn't want to be stuffed back into her lamp for eternity on a dying world. Why, you're misrepresenting everything. Am I? He raised an eyebrow. Am I really? Of course. I snorted, but for some reason I felt a pain in my chest. Okay. He nodded. Okay. I repeated in confusion. Let's agree to disagree. He nodded towards me with a chuckle. For your sake, I won't even mention Kunu. The way he teased it probably did more to rouse my anger than if he actually said anything. Come. I wouldn't let him get to me. You're fighting to prove yourself, because you know my words are true. He snapped his fingers, revealing a scene, an image that I wanted to forget, one I tried hard to suppress. It was Scat Hack, with my sword through her heart. And we move on to your last paramour, your mentor and the woman you killed. Love, don't make me laugh. Your actions speak loud enough, and the reason is obvious. He snapped his fingers again. Another screen appeared, a memory of mine. It was of Scat Hack, the moment she asked me to kill her. My breathing picked up erratically. It's because she chose death over staying with you. I felt something break inside of me. My legs went limp, barely catching myself from falling to the ground with my hands. I looked down and something splashed down onto the ground below me. I hesitantly moved my hand up to wipe away something wet running down my cheek. Was I crying? A few more drops of water hit the ground. Oh! I clutched my chest. Why was it hurting so much? It wasn't just physical pain. I felt like something deeper was seeping into me. Like a crack formed in my armor, and a jab went straight to my heart. That was easier than expected. His voice still reached my ears. But I guess I shouldn't expect much from a child who just runs away from all his problems. I ran a hand over my eyes, wiping away the wetness. Almost instinctively, the same hand went through my hair, a tic I developed whenever I was anxious. I paused when I felt what was binding my hair into a ponytail. The familiar feeling between my fingers. It was stupid, a piece of cloth that could be picked up off the street, yet it held so much sentimental value to me. I pulled it free, letting my hair fall down, pulling it in front of my face. You're wrong, I said quietly, clutching the fabric tight. I have things I need to work through still, I know that. I looked up at him. Maybe it's an irrational fear that's holding me back from saying those words to anyone, but I know for a fact that my feelings are reciprocated. That kiss we shared, That look she gave me full of sadness. Maybe what we had wasn't a healthy example of a relationship, but I knew she cared for me, just as I did for her. I took another deep breath, reaching back and tying my hair back up. I could provide counter-arguments for everything you said about them, about the women I've fallen for, but that would acknowledge that you had a point. My breathing evened out. I get attached easily. I probably crave attention because I was isolated for so long. And I tend to introduce myself as the bastard of Satan as a joke because it's still a sore spot for me. Jokes are often my way of dealing with anxiety and stress. At the end of the day, all I have to say is, so what? A childish answer. He mocked. Yes, so what if your life is a lie? The machination of your grandfather, barely held together by the thin veil of stability you call your emotions. Look how easily I got you down on your knees with a few words. I'm surprised Zelretch hadn't scrapped you and tried to start over. I let out a chuckle. Yeah, I've thought things like that too. I probably have a little bit of an inferiority complex when it comes to him. Understandably, so due to my circumstances. I smiled bitterly. It's why I've gone in a completely different direction with my magecraft and combat capabilities. I shook my head. But I trust him. I trust all of them. Trust. He scoffed. So, trusting that you open yourself up to betrayal so easily. You tried to reassure Rin before, but it's obvious. You're just a pawn on his board. He looked down on me. It's what led you here in the first place. Your trust you gave so easily to people because you were scared to be alone. You trust Meridia won't get bored of you in a few years. You trust that Artoria won't simply decide she could do better. You trust that Jen would care about you if she no longer needs you. He listed off. So much trust, yet your heart is complete turmoil. Does that word even have meaning to you? The corners of his lips curled up. And, he continued, you trust that Scat-Hack will even want to see you again. So much trust, yet your heart is complete turmoil. Does that word even have meaning to you? The corners of his lips curled up. That last one hit hard, possessing many more grains of truth than his other comments. I know I'm a contradiction. So easily giving trust to people, yet also being so wary of them that I keep so many secrets to myself. So scared of being alone again. But you're right, I can't keep going on like this, so the decision is a simple one. I lifted my head up, looking him straight in the eyes, then slammed my head onto the ground. My body shuddered at the impact, my vision slightly blurry, and I felt a warm sensation start flowing down my face. What are you doing? He blurted out. I'll put it all on the line then. I chuckled, even with the ones outside here. I'll admit, I was worried how they would see me. The part of me that desires their attention and affection, but I'll trust them. I won't let my insecurities lead me by the nose anymore. I lifted my head up and slammed it on the ground again. Again, my body jerked at the sudden tremor that ran through my body, the pain that pulsed through my head. I figured it out. I can't harm you, you can't harm me, and we can't damage the surroundings, so I'll hurt myself. A mental projection I am, but I also represent myself as a whole. This pain, this damage I'm doing to myself, I have no doubt it's actually happening to me. You're insane. You're just going to kill yourself. Who said anything about killing myself? This is a mental world forced out through me, even if without my input. I just need to not be conscious, and it should go away, right? This noble phantasm is meant to destroy someone, not physically, but mentally and emotionally. Well, why would they care if the same person decides to hurt themselves? It's the same outcome either way. You, the others outside will kill you. You'll be completely at their mercy. You're a devil. Do you think any of them will care about your friendship after this? I began to cackle, even as red filled my vision. That's right. I'll have nothing left but trust in the people I gathered around me. I trust Mordred, I trust Kyrie, I trust Jean, and I certainly trust Reiku. So let's roll the dice, shall we? I raised my head up again and slammed it on the ground, creating a new ringing sound in my ears. You're going to die. They're going to kill you and fight over the Grail themselves. And you're going to leave those girls all alone to find out their lover killed himself for such a stupid reason. I barely heard him as a shock went through my body. Ha! I spat out some blood that ran into my mouth. You're contradicting yourself now. I rocked side to side before slamming my head down again, shattering the stones beneath me. You're going to disappoint Zelretch. He hissed. I let out another laugh, slamming my head down again. Meridia. Slam. Artoria. Slam. Jin. Slam. Kunu's going to lose another father. That made me pause. My head was throbbing in pain, and I think I cracked my skull. I could barely hear him at this point, over the buzzing my ears. Kunu was going to have a much better father than I ever had. I shakily raised my middle finger at him with a smirk, before reeling my head back one last time and hitting it against the stone ground. My vision began to fade, and I felt my consciousness slipping. It's my win, I said quietly as I heard the shouts of my comrades rushing towards me. Chapter 195. POV Ruler Jean d'Arc. Wilhelm. I couldn't help but shout as he stumbled out of Castor's noble phantasm. Saber had already jumped towards Assassin, who kept her at bay with various long-range spells. Master! His servant was already on him as soon as the invisible walls faded. She scooped him up, immediately dodging to the side as magical attacks carved through the ground. I was distracted, only barely noticing several objects fly by my head. I recognized the weapon, armament of the church used to hunt things heretical to our teachings. Blades that carried within them the holy sacraments to purge unholy entities. And they were going straight for Wilhelm. Wilhelm's servant tried to awkwardly wield her blade to defend, until a loud explosive sound rang out. I glanced to the master of Saber, Kyrie as he introduced himself as. He held a gun aloft, smoke coming out of it as the magical bullets tore into the holy weapons. Nice one, master! Mordred shouted, black chain sweeping down at her as she did her best to dodge. I turned back to the other ruler. My authority as the true ruler of this war gave me his name, Amakusa Shiro Tokisada. The knowledge of his identity filled my mind due to the Grail's machinations. I swiped my banner at him with my full force. He brought up his katana to block it, though he couldn't hold it for but a moment before disengaging. Why are you blocking me? He looked surprised. You're supposed to be impartial. This is a fight between competitors. You are not supposed to be in this war. I countered, moving towards him again. I stabbed my banner towards his midsection, but he swept it away with his word. I am within my rights to remove you due to your origins as the last war's ruler. He flicked his offhand. More black keys appeared between his fingers as he slashed them down at me. I twirled my banner, blocking them with ease, and knocked the follow-up blade to the side. He took that moment to try and throw them again towards Wilhelm. I slammed my banner down. The holy light enveloped me as I gathered it and thrust forward, shattering the black keys before they could gain any meaningful distance. Why? He looked utterly dumbfounded. You're protecting him? He's a demon! Shiro shouted. You follow the Lord's teachings. He's our enemy. He's my friend. I swung my banner, hitting him in the stomach. Blood flowed out his mouth as he got rocketed towards a nearby pillar. He doesn't deserve condemnation for being born what he is. I slammed my banner down, looking at him get up, wiping the blood trailing down the corner of his mouth. He was nice to me. Even with his relentless teasing, it never held any malice or malicious intent. He helped me when I was in need, and made sure I was taken care of. He even called me a friend. So what if he wasn't fully human? He asked me before if I would think any less of him if I found out he was a demon. In hindsight, I could remember him looking a little sheepish when asking me that question, but my answer had not changed. I'm trying to save the world, and you're protecting a defiler of it. He swept his hand through the air, anger clear on his face. You don't deserve to be called a saint. He sneered. I never called myself a saint. I met his gaze. I only did what I thought was right in my heart. And right now, I tilted my banner back down, its sharp pointing lining up with him. It's telling me to protect him from you. Foolish! He growled, turning towards Assassin who still sat on her throne. Assassin! He shouted, as if a command for action. I grew bored of this anyways. Assassin raised her hand as Mordred could not approach, with the various spells falling down on her and those black chains constricting her every movement. My poison will liquefy your insides. Die in the most painful manner possible. At various spots around the room, gas began to burst out. Friendly fire! Friendly fire! Castor shouted, but was otherwise ignored. The areas that looked like they were patchwork together were devoid of the poisonous gases, but there was still enough that the place began to visibly fill. No! I gasped out, watching this unfold. I turned towards the others, who didn't look like they had a means to deal with this. My noble phantasm should be able to protect them if you wanted to remove me from the war, then please stay with me until the end then. Shiro gave a deceptively kind smile, sword in hand, blocking my way back. Wilhelm POV. I groggily opened my eyes, faintly feeling someone tugging at me, and lots of shouts going on. My head hurt bad, and my vision was really blurry, not to mention the ringing in my eyes. Concussion. Most definitely. Glad you're back, brat. Drake. No time for that. You're in danger. Drake's voice sounded urgent. Chug a health potion, and use that spell you used on that Hydra back in Kyoto. The spell from Kyoto, Hydra, poison? My head was spinning, and it was hard to concentrate on any one thing. I followed his commands, shuffling around awkwardly and shakily pouring a health potion into my mouth. I think what little magical energy Avalon had left was working its magic as well. Maybe I should. Focus, use spell. Right. I took a breath, and whatever was supporting me shifted. I heard a familiar voice, but I couldn't really acknowledge it at the moment. Taking talismans out of my ring, I awkwardly threw them into the air. God of the East Sea, Ame. God of the West Sea, Shikoryu. God of the South Sea, Kyoju. God of the North Sea, Gukyu. Gods of the Seven Seas, fend off 100 demons and drive back the fierce disaster. My breathing picked up, and I felt increasingly lightheaded, even more so, but I didn't feel the spell actualize. You're still holding a talisman. Oh, right. I fell to my knees and slapped it on the ground. Order! I finished the casting. Even with my vision foggy, I could see the glowing pentagram that formed on the ground, and looking up, the blurry one that took to the ceiling. Good. Now heal yourself. I continued to follow his directions, calling upon the strongest healing spell I knew and placed it against my head. The ringing began to subside, and my vision started returning to normal, and the whole world wasn't spinning anymore. I could feel my aura working fully since I was no longer in that mental world, working in tangent with my own healing and the effects of the healing potion. Reiku! I looked up at my servant holding on to me. Master! She looked very happy to see me lucid. I still had a killer headache, but I don't think my skull was cracked anymore. I surveyed the room. Jean was trading blows with Shiro, and Mordred was dashing around as assassin tried to snipe at her with magecraft. Looking up, it appeared my spell was purifying this poisonous gas that was seeping into the area. My eyes then landed on Castor, whose head slowly turned towards me. Shakespeare. I growled, standing back up. Haha, my boy, what a great showing. He clapped awkwardly, though that little bit of awkwardness disappeared after a moment, and a smirk adorned his face. Well, I can tell when the curtain is beginning to fall. I'm resisting the urge to run you through. I tried to remain calm, but my fists clenched tight. I suppose I won't be able to see the end of this magnificent play. He sighed, flipping his hair back. For the record, you were perhaps my favorite actor in this production. I am filled with joy. My dry tone was very evident by his mirthful chuckle. I was angry, but it was hard for me to bring up that rage that bubbled beneath the surface. At this point, I just wanted it to be over. Castor, you pathetic hack, do something productive. Assassin hissed towards her teammate. Shut up, you damn hag. Mordred roared, slicing through some malevolent-looking chains that shot out of the ceiling towards her. Another barrage of condensed, magical energy in the form of lasers bombarded her as well. Her lightning erupted as she tore through the magical attacks, but still was having trouble approaching the woman sitting on the throne. Castor hummed to himself, not even shaken by the glares being sent his way, and the absolute blood-lust that Reiku was projecting towards him. I admit, I am partial to tragedies. I feel like they elicit a purer emotion to my audience. He turned to me and smirked again. But I can enjoy the occasional happy ending. He sent me a wink, taking out a quill. I raised an eyebrow, but my instincts were telling me not to do anything. That I wasn't the target of his mischief. My ability, Enchant, allows me to add properties to personal items. He weirdly began to explain. A playwright knows how to bring out the story in everything. He grinned, writing something, etching words into the stone of the throne room. But who says they all have to be beneficial? He flicked his quill to the side, ink flying off. Almost immediately, the whole area shook, crack forming in the walls, on the ceiling, and even fissuring the ground. The word that appeared was easy to read. Shatter. A simple word to bring down a ruler. How fitting for this man. Caster. Assassin slammed her hands on her throne. A massive magic circle appeared above her head. The air shuddered at it discharged down at her own teammate. He didn't fret, nor even try to dodge out of the way. A gift to a fan. His smile was somewhat warm as he looked at me once more. Now the curtain's certainly beings to fall, and it's time for my final bow. It was an exaggerated movement, his bow to the audience as the beam of power tore through the area he had been standing, eviscerating him on the spot. Damn it, Shakespeare! How am I supposed to continue hating you after doing something like that? I shook my head as pieces of the place began to fall down from above. This patchwork room that looked barely held together by Assassin's will, it was unraveling at the seams. My lips curled up. This is your place of power. The reason you won't leave your throne isn't because of your arrogance. It's because you can't. Not only is it where you're at your strongest, but you have to stay there to keep this place together. I turned towards Assassin. What Shakespeare did, it diminished her in a way. Her link to this place was lessened as destruction engulfed it. That meant she was weakened, even more than she was by having to hold this place together like she had been before. One last fuck you from the famous playwright himself. She sneered towards me, but didn't speak. Her attacks towards Mordred picked up exponentially. Kyrie. I spoke towards the man who had been standing nearby, almost protectively. Got a command seal left? He smirked, raising his hand up, revealing two more. Ready when you are. I took out the staff of Magnus from my ring, slamming it onto the ground. Mordred! I called out, slamming my staff down to create a shield around both me and Kyrie for extra defense. Assassin's eyes widened, perhaps sensing the danger. Master! She called out. Assassin, by the power of this command spell, defeat your opponents. Shiro called out while still fighting off Jean. The magical energy around her burst forth, her fingers pushed together, and a massive magical circle speared at the top of the ceiling, shattering my pentagram that had been dealing with the lingering poison. She laughed wildly. Within my throne room, I can even summon one of the children of Tiamat. She declared. A huge figure burst through the magic circle, seemingly appearing from an ancient age. Basmu, the snake-like creature that burst out, roared at everyone. Liquid dripped from its body, disintegrating everything it touched. Debris falling all around us. The snake's eyes locked right onto us and swept down. Reiku, as your master, I order you. I swiped my hand through the air. Use as much magical energy as possible and release your noble phantasm. She drew as much as she could through our link, and used the reserve she had left. Her purple lightning crackled around her. Ox King Storm call, the inescapable net of heaven. She called out, lighting bolts falling from the sky, and those clones of hers appearing once more. They all leapt up into the air, their divine lighting tearing into the creature made of that poisonous liquid. It roared in fury, in pain and anguish as Reika's noble phantasm made quick work of it. That thing, it was probably only at a fraction of its true power due to the conditions of her place of power. A child of Tiamat? I scoffed. Maybe so, but it was lessened to such a degree, it probably wouldn't even qualify as a divine beast. I held my staff up. Kyrie! I called out. Saber! He shouted, holding his hand up. By the power of this command seal, slay the king. Mordred's aura magnified exponentially. A conceptual alignment with her own legend of slaying a king. She exploded from the spot she was in. The remains of what was the divine beast were utterly disintegrated as she burst through, her blade pushing right through Assassin's heart in the blink of an eye. Aya! Assassin screamed, blood spraying from her mouth. Die, you bitch! Mordred roared, pulling her sword upwards. Her sword sliced through Assassin's upper body, and she collapsed in her chair. There was no menacing declarations or heartfelt goodbyes. Assassin's body began to dissipate. A moment was all it took for several black keys to fly towards Mordred. The knight jumped back, leaving behind her dissipating body, only for Shiro to jump up and reach out towards her. Semiramis, he said quietly, but enough to be heard. Ah, that's who Assassin was. It makes sense now. It's over, Shiro, Jean declared, walking up to us. Why? He looked up, watching her motes of mana disappear. I'm trying to save everyone. Why are you all trying to stop me? His gaze swept the room, landing on me. You! He singled me out. It's your fault. It's the machinations of evil that are standing in my way. My fault. I snorted. Do you even know what saving the world means? Are you just going to wish on the Grail and hope for the best? I would stop them from dying. He shouted. A world where everyone is happy, everyone is good, and everyone is perfect. There won't be any death, no destruction. His eyes turned dark, and I would exterminate all evil and create a new, pure world. How utterly ridiculous. I spat out. And you're supposed to be a saint from my homeland? Do you have your head so far up your ass that you believe that bullshit? I dismissed the shield, ignored the collapsing building, and took steps towards him. You want to take away free will? How is that fulfilling your duties to your god? What would you know, demon? He snarled. More than you about how the world works. I rolled my eyes. You want to take away humanity's potential to make yourself feel better. Potential? He spat out. What use would potential be when no one would ever be sad anymore? No one would ever have to worry about being killed, or dying, or losing those they cherish. I shook my head. I almost pitied him. You won't take my word for it. Then let's let your god be the judge. I looked into my ring. I chose this course of action because for some reason I could feel a faint pulsing of a certain spear I had stashed away. For some odd reason, almost like a stray thought, I felt like I could actually touch it without being smote into dust. I summoned the divine spear out of my ring. What? Shiro shielded his eyes, an action mimicked by the others as well. It was warm. The light of the spear I held in my hand. It wasn't hurting me, but I could also feel that if I tried to use it, that would quickly change. No, it wasn't supposed to be used by me right now. I turned towards Jean, who looked at me with befuddlement. You lot can settle this between yourselves. I tossed it towards the saintess. This seemed like more her fight at this point. Wilhelm. Jean squeaked out, catching the spear. Longinus, the spear of destiny. That which pierced the side of Christ. I introduced the powerful armament. Why do you have that? Shiro looked at me, in what looked like horror on his face. It's not surprising. That's probably one of the most powerful relics of their religion. And it was sitting in the hands of the son of Lucifer, in their eyes, that is. I ignored him and continued. It even possesses a small piece of the big man himself. Jean hefted up the spear, and the world was dyed in a holy air. There was a strange resolve in her eyes, almost ignoring the fact that she held something that should be sacred to her beliefs. Amakusa Shiro Tokasada. The spear slowly began to point towards the former ruler-servant. Her words were soft, yet they held a certain authority to them. The room shook more than it had before. The ceiling was ripped off in a gust of wind, and the sky outside becoming ever so clear. I had wondered why this place still persisted, but I didn't have time to create a concrete theory. Perhaps just due to the residual power that was running this ridiculous noble phantasm, and it had yet to run its course. My thoughts were quickly cut away as I noticed the phenomenon in the sky. The clouds above began to swirl around us. It felt like a higher presence descended upon the entire area. Oh shit! Was the piece of the Abrahamic God inside the spear resonating with his counterpart in this world? Uh-oh! A massive pillar of light slammed down from the heavens, encompassing both the saints, the ruler-servants who walked behind the banner of the same God. This light, it stopped a fraction of an inch in front of me, almost like it was being considerate of my unique nature. As the light began to fade away, Jean stood there, standing upright with the spear at her side, and Shiro was on his knees, looking up at the sky. Was I really wrong? He asked quietly. I just wanted to save people from suffering. His head slumped down, and his body broke down into motes of mana, drifting into the wind. Jean watched him drift away, a somber look on her face. Your heart was in the right place, Shiro. Rest now. Leave it to Jean to look at the best in people, even when they try to kill you and doom the world. I wonder what happened in that moment of literal divine intervention. Actually, I don't want to know. I'm done. This has been a trying few days. At this point, I just wanted to summon the woman I love and hug her until my arms fall off. Now where the hell was that Grail? Canon Make, Fight Club, Artoria POV. I don't understand. Why do these Super Sentai not simply use their large machine to step on this enemy? Would it not cause them much less problems, and the city would suffer far less? Stop trying to analyze it. It's a show meant to just turn off your brain and enjoy. Rin huffed, draping herself over the sofa. She had a particular tough workout through my own efforts, so I allowed her this time of respite. These people know nothing of true martial arts or fighting. I frowned, watching them jump around and make some very disastrous attacks that left them open for many different counters. It's a show, they're actors. Rin replied. Mayhaps they should study their craft better. Some time properly spent learning their roles would do them well. I knew I was nitpicking, but I guess it was hard to separate the idea I had of actors and what this era considers as such. Suddenly, the door burst open. I smiled seeing Wilhelm walk in with Izanami at his side. It always made me feel good when he had such a genuine smile on his face. I feel like it is not often that he can simply play without any overt responsibilities hanging over his head. The way they were laughing and whispering to each other, it was nice. I don't think they even noticed, as lost in their own little world. Did you get the stuff? I heard Izanami's light whisper. Yeah, it was hard to get protection in the proper size. Wilhelm replied, especially with the workout it's going to be getting. Quality matters, otherwise it just feels strange and uncomfortable. Izanami's voice disappeared upstairs. Rin turned to me. So, did you hear what they heard? I did. I nodded. And you're not going to be suspicious? She quirked an eyebrow. If Wilhelm wishes to finally make a move on Izanami, I would not say anything. I replied. I enjoyed Izanami's friendship, and I would not be remiss if they sought something more. Honestly, I thought they were already in a relationship a few times now. Seriously? Not just the least bit curious. Rin tried to goad me. Mayhaps, just a little bit. I admitted. But I don't believe. Let's go eavesdrop. Rin stood up. Rin! I blurted out as she was already walking upstairs. What? If Schweinorg is going to boink while we're literally down here and in earshot, he deserves to get a little embarrassed. That's not untrue, I suppose. It is rather rude if he wishes to engage in something. Intimate while we are right here. Maybe just a little peek. I whispered. I wished to see if they truly crossed that line of friendship into something else. Jin had made a wager on it, and I would not lose out this time. We quietly snuck up to the door they entered, pressing against it. You have the batteries? Izanami's voice echoed out. Yeah, got some extra just in case. Wilhelm replied. Make sure you get the video camera set up at a good angle. I want to make sure all the good parts get in this. Yes, I believe we will gather many views with this. Izanami seemed to agree with him. Just make sure to blur our faces. I would die of embarrassment if someone I know saw me doing this for the world to see. I felt my cheeks turn warm, and I saw Rin also turn a bright shade of red. This debauchery. I cannot allow this to stand. I must intervene. Flaunting something like this for the whole world to see. That is going to for Wilhelm. I stood up straight and quickly pushed the door open. I expected something. Lewd, clothes thrown on the ground and sensitive areas exposed. Instead, I had several pairs of eyes now on me. What is this? I squeaked out in confusion and my own built-up embarrassment. Wilhelm and Izanami shared a look. He made me do it. She quickly replied. Forced me, blackmail. You traitor. I couldn't stop him. She's lying. It was all her idea. What the hell is this? Rin finally worked past her shock as I too evaluate the scene before me. It was Sir Wiggles, standing upon his hind legs with his front paws in boxing gloves. He had a pair of little shorts around his waist, and there was a makeshift arena around him with some strange device sitting opposite. Are you making your rabbit box a Roomba? Rin asked in complete shock. No. Wilhelm wasn't very convincing with his reply.